So in the 1850s, the House was bitterly divided over the issue of the westward extension of slavery. And that played out on the House floor quite often in fights and in fracases that occurred in a very crowded chamber and with members kind of in the heat of debate about slavery or pro-slavery bills that were on the House floor. The House was, in the 1850s, really not the paragon of representative democracy. It often looked a lot more like a Western saloon. So the Keitt melee in February of 1858 was one of the largest floor fights that we know of in House history. And it was very symbolic of the divisions of the House in that era over the westward extension of slavery. It happened late one night while the House was debating the Lecompton Constitution, which was a pro-slavery constitution for the Kansas Territory. The floor manager on the House side was Galusha Grow, who was an ardent abolitionist, and he was the floor manager for the Republican side. He strayed over into the Democratic side of the House, and he was met by Lawrence Keitt of South Carolina, who was had a fiery temper, and he had a bit of history. Both men had some history. Grow had and would nearly fight in a duel, and Keitt had escorted Preston Brooks over to the Senate chamber, while Brooks caned Charles Sumner to within an inch of his life in 1856, and Keitt held back the onlookers. So both these guys possessed very volatile tempers. Words were exchanged, and the next thing you know, fists were flying, and shortly after that, the well of the House was just a scene of bedlam. There were nearly 50 members in the well of the House, brawling, wielding spittoons, punching, kicking. Members were standing on desks, cheering on the combatants, and the sergeant-at-arms waded into the melee with the mace and couldn't break up the fight. The Speaker couldn't gavel the House to order, and the fight went on. At one point, a member named Cadwallader Washburn took a swing at another member, William Barksdale, and he was off balance, and the punch landed oddly, and it knocked the hairpiece off of Barksdale, who quickly scrambled to put it back on his head. And when he did so, it was askew, and it caused a lot of commotion and much merriment among his fellow pugilists. Eventually, the fight broke up. Members were toasting each other, and they made up. But a member by the name of Alexander Stephens from Georgia, who would very soon become the Confederate vice president, wrote a note home writing about the fight and telling his correspondent that he didn't know how much longer the Union could go on, that the fight was very symbolic of divisions in the House. And in fact, the fighting would become real quite quickly after that. William Barksdale was one of the members who left the House during secession, and he went and fought in the Confederate Army and was killed at the Battle of Gettysburg.